All right, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So this is Ticket Training Tuesday. Again, thank you for joining. Thank you for returning. Um, we had to break up last week's session into two parts, so I'm glad that folks were able to come back and see part two. We'll get right into the agenda here. Um, I'm saying welcome now, and the housekeeping is this, the agenda today, as well as a note about recording. We are recording this session, so if you want to see the session at a later date, we'll provide that recording. We have last week's session already up. I can throw the link for that in the chat. I have it here. Um, we also have all sessions from last season and this session available on YouTube. So check out that YouTube. And if you could give us a subscribe, we're trying to get our followers up so more people see our content. So if you wouldn't mind, give us a subscribe there or like the video. Just if you watch it, find value from it. That helps, helps more people be able to see that content. So we would appreciate that. And with that, we'll go straight back into adaptive cards. We talked a little bit last week about, kind of why we wanted to enhance the adaptive card experience. It mostly came from user feedback. I won't go too deep into that again, as this is, kind of the continuation of that, but just high level, basically, um, we use the adaptive cards to present the ticket ingestion experience to your end users. As your end users are submitting tickets, they are presented with an adaptive card in Teams, in the Ticket Virtual Agent, whether you rebranded that or not. It's the Ticket Virtual Agent experience. And basically, we just wanted to be able to give you more ability to customize those cards, more flexibility to capture the information from those users that you need and make that ticket actionable for both you and them. It's a better experience all the way around. So let me share my screen. Sure, I get the right one. There we are. So when we left off last time, I had just kind of gone through the ability to add ticket properties to the form. We were also able to add variables from the various inputs on the card and have those come through in a text field. So where I left off, I wanted to get into the ability, which is a new ability, to edit the default card experience. So previously, when someone would go into Ticket Virtual Agent and they would say, I need help with X, Y, or Z issue, if you didn't have a KB linked to that and a KB and a template linked to that, direct prompt, then they wouldn't get a custom form back. They would get the default form. And we had, tons of folks ask, can we customize that form? Well, used to, the answer was no, but as of, again, last Friday, or actually Friday before last, excuse me, now we are able to customize that experience. And if for those that have multi-team, this would be something that you would have had before in the default card. We would say, there was a turn on the what we call the multi-team picker, and an end user submitting an issue would be able to select the team that they want that issue to go to. Well, now you can include that or not include it. We've taken out the configuration around that because it's just here on the default card experience. So if you need to add team to the default card experience, you can do that. Again, you probably saw that it was there by default, but you can change that verbiage, what team does this need to go to, and so on and so forth. And another kind of big deal is now you have the ability to bring the message. So this was the default behavior before when they would say, I need help with X, Y, or Z. That's what would come through in this request field. Well, that can still happen so that this message variable, similar to the variables that we looked at last week, is what will be populated in this box. But also, you can change that, you can remove that. And so now they can actually customize that message as they enter the ticket. And also, it can just be blank so that they have to put something there. Previously, the message would be there, and still you can do that by adding the message back in. But previously, if the message was there, people may not change it, and therefore you may not get kind of the real meat of the request. But now you can have them put in a new request, and that's what will come through. And this will bind to the request field on the ticket itself. But also, you can add additional properties. So, like if you want them to set the category or the priority, you can have all of that show up. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Make sure I got that. Yeah, I do have message. Um, so again, this new experience in Ticket Virtual Agent, if I say I need help with XYZ, hopefully that won't be in my knowledge base. I don't believe it is. There we go. So you can see right away, I still got the ability to pick my team, and now I can do category and priority. And again, I had that message come on through, but now I can customize it. And again, if I remove that message variable or put some kind of static text in there, that's what would show up here, and people could submit that with that custom text. So that is the default template enhancement. And another quick note on that is we wanted that to be aligned with the email experience. So for those that are using the email connector, you know that the subject becomes the request. I'm actually going to customize this to kind of show that. The subject of an email becomes the request, but also the body of the email becomes a first comment. And so we can actually that was weird. Let me try that again. I'm going to put a container in there so that you can have that experience in the default card now. So somebody says, I need help with XYZ. That's going to be the request, but then also they can come in here and you can change the label too. That's another cool thing is you can change the label and then whatever goes in this body, and we can change that to subject if we wanted to. When they submit that, that will become a first comment. I'm going to do that one more time. And you can see too, as I'm changing this card, these changes come through immediately. As long as I save that template, then I'm able to, yeah, there's my subject, and I say, help me, please. Submit that, and it'll create the ticket, and we'll go look at that in just a second. This will be the request, and then, okay, it did create the ticket. If I go now, and then the body, what I entered as the body will be the first comment. So we look at 2075. You can see there I've got a comment. And again, that's coming from the default card experience, which is new in the latest release. The next thing to talk about is data sources. I think I started down this path last week. Don't remember exactly how deep I got, but I do want to talk about what data sources are. Any questions, sorry, around the default card experience so far? I've heard the chat bell going off, but I can't see it. So any questions? No? Okay. So data sources, like I said, I think I did talk about this last week, but I wanted to go into it again. We have this new button up here in the editor, which is data sources. And what a data source is the ability to filter one of the controls that we're adding to the card. So like category, for example, I think I did look at this last week. So like, for example, I've filtered out Asana. So when I submit this card, I will only get the options that are in that data source. If I select that data source. If I select default, I'm going to get all the options. But if I select that particular data source, then I'll only get those options. And the same is true. So that's true of all of the lists. So status, ticket type, category, group, all of that. You can filter all of those. But it's also true for tags. So if I add a tags control, and yeah, I definitely did show this last week. And I select custom tags. I believe I had left and right in there as my custom tags. And so when I save that and submit that, then I'm able to just select those tags based on that data source. And again, a note on that, it is global. So any data source that you create, no matter what template you're doing it in, it'll be available in other templates. So just you want to make sure you name those appropriately so that when you're selecting them in a new template, new process, that you get the right filter, the right data source. Um, One final thing I do want to show is in one of those tickets that I just created. I'm going to go to the first one. We had, I believe, oh, that was the default. I did never create one using the using a custom. So let me see what my knowledge articles are. Yeah, adaptive card update. So if I go back to Ticket Virtual Agent and I say adaptive card update, this is one of the new templates that I've created with some of the new custom controls. I think this is the same one we did last week. Uh, that's fine. Category. And I think I might have shown this last week as well, but I just want to be super clear about it. Then when an agent works a ticket now that's been created using one of the, using a form with these new enhanced controls, so for example, category is bound to the property on the ticket of category. Previously, we weren't able to do that, but we can link directly to one of those properties now. And if I go look at that ticket, 2076, that was just created, um, I can actually change that category, and that category is going to come through. That change is going to come through. As you can see, the category was changed to permissions, and I also changed the custom form responses. So any of the list controls that are bound to a ticket property, when you change them on the card, the custom form answers, it will also change that property and you'll get that audit trail in the activity of the ticket. Um, so that is the rest of adaptive card enhancements. Like I said, we kind of spilled over last week and wanted to make sure that we hit all the rest of that, including especially the default card experience. That was a big ask, big request. Um, so now I'll open it up again. Are there any questions around any of what we covered last week or this week or anything else around ticket? No questions. I will kind of comment on one thing that came up last week, and that was I added a variable in a text input that didn't come through. Somebody asked, why did that not come through? When you add one of those variables, they have to be present in the card. If they're not present in the card, then they're not going to come through. So if we look at this template, you can see priority was there and it came through, but it wasn't there. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't, I don't believe it was visible to the end user. Maybe it was. I go back here. But anyway, I had priority come through, but it was on the card. So I don't remember who asked that question, but I know that came up last week that a variable didn't pass through, and it was because I didn't have that particular field. Yeah, priority is there. Um, I didn't have that particular field on the card when I asked that property to come through. So if you're going to use a variable for a property, for example, priority, I have priority coming through in uh, I have priority coming through in the request. Um, it has to be on the card, and priority is on the card in this case. Hope that makes sense. And, kind of as it relates to last week. Any questions? Final call for questions. Nope. Going once, going twice. Out of breath. Stop sharing my screen and go back to the deck. Cool. Well, sounds like there's no questions for me right now. But as always, feel free to reach out to any of us. You can get us at help@syerson.com or, email us directly, message us directly in Teams. If you see our new signatures with all of our branding updates that we've, kind of talked about in the recent weeks, we all have, messages in Teams. We'll have a meeting link, etc. So feel free to grab us and ask us questions or whatever you need from us. We're here for you. All right. Anything else from anybody else? Cool. All right. Thanks again, guys, for turning out for part two. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys' participation and joining these sessions. If you have any feedback, definitely let us know. We'd love to hear what you want to see from us. With that, I'll say thanks. Take care, everybody.